Hello, friends, and welcome to this shadowed corner of history where the past refuses to stay buried. If you're already part of our family here, thank you. Your comments, your shares, and your unwavering curiosity keep these forgotten stories alive. And if this is your first time with us, welcome aboard. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and let's walk these misty trails together. Before we step into the Allegheny Mountains of 1856, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. Where are you watching from? Your city, your country, and what time is it there as these words reach you? Are you curled up at dusk in the Pacific Northwest? Or maybe dawn is breaking where you sit in Europe? Tell me. I read every single one, and knowing we're all gathered here from across the world makes these tales feel even more alive. Now, picture it. The year is 1856. America teeters on the brink of a great national wound, but out here, in the wild heart of Bedford County, Pennsylvania, life is simpler, harder, and far more fragile. The Allegheny Mountains rise like the spine of some ancient beast, their slopes cloaked in primeval forest, towering hemlocks and white pines so thick the sunlight barely reaches the floor. Scotch, Irish, and German settlers have carved out pockets of existence here, families like the Coxes who came seeking land, timber, and a future. Logging is just beginning to bite into these woods. Axes ring out at dawn, and the scent of fresh-cut pine hangs in the air like a promise and a warning. But the mountains keep their secrets. Mist rolls through the hollows each morning, thick as wool, swallowing sound and sight. Bears still roam, wolves echo at night. And older stories, whispers of things that live in hollow trees, born from the old country and the land's own forgotten voices, make even the bravest men check their lanterns twice at dusk. In a modest log cabin tucked into Spruce Hollow, near the tiny settlement of Pavia, Samuel Cox rises with the first gray light. He is a man of 33, broad-shouldered from years of clearing land and splitting rails, his face lined by worry and weather. His wife, Susanna, stirs beside him, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. They have two boys, George, 7 years old, already sturdy and curious, with his father's steady gaze, and little Joseph, just 5, small and bright-eyed, forever trailing after his big brother like a shadow. The family is close-knit, the way mountain folk must be. Their cabin is one room, warmed by a stone hearth. A rough table holds cornbread and salt pork from yesterday's supper. Outside, the world is still asleep under a blanket of fog. Samuel pulls on his heavy wool coat and boots. "Dog's been barking again," he mutters, more to himself than anyone. The hound has been restless for days, drawn toward the deeper woods where the laurel thickets swallow the trails. He kisses Susanna's forehead, ruffles the boys' hair where they still lie curled under the quilt, and steps out into the chill April air. The mist is thick today, swirling around the trunks like living breath. He shoulders his axe and disappears down the path toward a stand of timber he means to clear. What Samuel does not know, what no one yet suspects, is that 2 small pairs of eyes have opened wide in the loft. George whispers to Joseph, "Pa's going after that dog again. Let's go see." The boys dress quickly in their simple homespun shirts and trousers, feet slipping into small leather shoes their mother patched only last week. They slip out the door without a sound, tiny footprints already forming in the soft earth. The mist closes around them like welcoming arms. George takes his brother's hand. "We'll be back before Ma wakes," he promises. Their laughter is light, carried away on the fog. Susanna wakes perhaps half an hour later. The cabin feels too quiet. She calls their names, once, twice. No answer. She steps outside, the mist still heavy, and sees the small tracks leading away from the door. 2 sets, side by side, heading straight into the trees. Her heart stutters. She runs to the nearest neighbor's cabin, voice breaking as she cries out. Word spreads fast in the hollow. Men leave their breakfasts half-eaten. Wives gather children close. By mid-morning, a small party of fathers and uncles is already beating the brush, calling the boys names until their throats grow raw. Samuel returns at a dead run when the news reaches him, face pale beneath the grime of work. He joins the search, axe still in hand, eyes scanning the ground for those tiny footprints. The day wears on. The mist never fully lifts. The Alleghenies seem to swallow sound. Calls echo strangely, then die. By afternoon, the search has grown. Neighbors from Pavia and beyond arrive on horseback or on foot, lanterns ready even though the sun has not yet set. They speak in low voices of past tragedies, children lost to the cold, to sudden streams, to the wood's own hunger. Someone mutters an old Scotch-Irish charm against the hollow ones, the things said to wait in rotted trunks. But most push the thought aside. These are just boys. They will be found cold and frightened, perhaps, but safe. Yet as twilight bleeds across the ridges, the footprints grow fainter, leading higher into the laurel and mist. Samuel's voice cracks as he shouts their names again and again. Susanna waits at the cabin door, a lantern trembling in her hand, tears cutting clean paths down her cheeks. The mountains have taken something precious, and the hollow feels suddenly vast and empty. The searchers know they will not stop tonight. Torches flicker to life. The mist thickens once more, as if the Alleghenies themselves are drawing a curtain over what comes next. The woods have claimed their own, and something within them is listening. The search stretched into the second day, and then the third, a grim procession of exhausted men and women combing the rugged slopes of the Allegheny Mountains. Samuel Cox moved like a man possessed, his boots caked in mud, his voice hoarse from endless calling. Susanna remained at the cabin, tending the fire and praying aloud in the old German way her mother had taught her, soft, rhythmic words that blended faith with mountain superstition. Neighbors brought food she could not eat. Children were kept indoors, for the hollow now felt watched. The dense, old-growth forest, with its cathedral-like stands of hemlock and pine, seemed to close in tighter with every passing hour. In 1856, these woods were still largely untamed. Lumber camps were just beginning to push in, but the deeper hollows remained the domain of black bear, bobcat, and the quiet terror that settlers carried from the old countries. The tiny footprints told a heartbreaking story. They led steadily away from the cabin, two small sets marching side by side through the soft spring earth, then climbing higher into the laurel-choked ridges. The boys had been excited, their steps light and playful at first, then more determined as they followed whatever had drawn them, perhaps their father's distant voice, perhaps the restless dog, or simply the thrill of adventure in the mist. The tracks vanished near a massive hollow tree, an ancient hemlock whose trunk had rotted into a gaping black mouth large enough for a man to step inside. The mist clung thickest here, swirling around the opening like smoke from an unseen fire. Searchers gathered, lanterns held high, their breath visible in the chill air. One of the men, a burly German settler named Heinrich who had fought wolves in his youth, pushed forward with a long pole. Boys might have climbed inside for shelter, he muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. The group fell silent as he probed the darkness. Then came the sound, wet rhythmic gnawing, like heavy jaws working on gristle and bone. A low growl followed, deep and unnatural, nothing like any dog or bear they had ever heard. Heinrich jerked back, face ashen. Others raised rifles and axes. Samuel shoved his way to the front, heart hammering with a father's desperate hope, mixed with dawning horror. What they found inside that hollow tree would haunt every soul present for the rest of their lives. The boys' small bodies lay torn and scattered across the dank interior, tiny shoes still on their feet, clothing shredded. But it was not the sight of the remains that broke the men. It was the thing still crouched over them, gnawing methodically on the delicate bones. The creature was unlike anything in their experience, roughly the size of a large bear but hunched and sinewy, its hide a mottled gray-black that blended with the rotting wood. Its eyes glowed faintly in the lantern light, yellow and intelligent, set in a face that seemed half human, half beast, with a wide maw lined with jagged teeth stained dark with blood. It did not flee immediately. Instead, it paused its grisly meal, lifting its head to regard the intruders with a chilling calm, as if the woods themselves had granted it dominion here. A shot rang out. The beast snarled and lunged, moving with terrifying speed despite its bulk. Claws raked across one man's arm, tearing through wool and flesh. Another searcher swung an axe, catching it across the shoulder. The creature let out a scream that echoed through the mist like a dying child's wail mixed with the howl of wind through dead trees. An unearthly sound that would be whispered about in Allegheny hollows for generations. It retreated deeper into the tree's labyrinthine roots, vanishing into a narrow crevice that no grown man could follow. Blood, its own dark and viscous, splattered the ground, yet it left no clear trail beyond the hollow. The search party stood frozen in the gathering dusk, lanterns trembling in bloodied hands. Samuel dropped to his knees beside what remained of his sons, a raw animal cry tearing from his throat. Tears streamed down his weathered face as he gathered the fragments of their small bodies, wrapping them gently in his coat. The men around him wept openly. Tough frontier folk who had buried loved ones to fever and famine now faced something far worse, a violation that struck at the very soul of their isolated world. Whispers spread immediately. This was no ordinary predator. Old stories resurfaced, tales brought from Scotland and Ireland of the slough, or restless spirits that fed on the innocent, blended with German legends of wood demons that lurked in hollow trunks, and faint echoes of native warnings about entities that walked the ridges when the mist rose. In the cultural tapestry of 1856 Appalachia, such horrors were not dismissed as superstition. They were part of the unseen fabric of the mountains, respected with charms of rowan wood and prayers at crossroads. word raced back to the settlements. Women keened in grief. The Cox cabin filled with mourners bearing what little comfort they could offer. Herbs for the dead whispered protections against the thing that still lurked. That night, no one slept easily. Torches burned along the edges of Spruce Hollow, and dogs howled until dawn. The creature, whatever it was, had tasted human blood and bone, and the men who had faced it swore its eyes held a knowing hunger that would not be satisfied by two small boys alone. The Alleghenies had revealed one of their darkest secrets, and the woods at dusk would never feel the same again. The burial of George and Joseph Cox took place 2 days later in a small clearing near the family cabin under a gray sky that seemed to mourn with the mountains. The community gathered in hushed reverence. Scotch-Irish families reciting psalms in their lilting accents, German settlers crossing themselves with quiet intensity. Samuel stood like a broken oak, his strong frame hunched as he helped lower the small wooden boxes into the earth. Susanna clung to him, her sobs quiet now, worn down to a hollow ache that no words could reach. Neighbors had carved simple headstones from local sandstone, etching only the boys' names and the date, April 24, 1856. Wildflowers, trillium, and bloodroot were scattered over the fresh soil, a fragile offering against the vast indifference of the Alleghenies. Yet the true horror did not end with the graves. In the weeks that followed, the creature was sighted again. Hunters tracking deer near the hollow tree reported glimpses at dusk, a hunched shadow slipping between the ancient trunks, eyes catching the last light like dying embers. One logger swore he heard the same wet gnawing sound echoing from the mist, accompanied by the faint, heartbreaking echo of a child's laughter. George and Joseph's voices twisted into something mocking and unnatural. The men who had faced it in the tree spoke of its unnatural intelligence, how it seemed to understand their fear and feed upon it. Appalachian folklore, rich with European roots and the land's own mysteries, gave it a name in whispers, the Hollow Walker, a thing born perhaps from the old world wold-woes or wild men of the woods, fused with mountain tales of bone-eaters that claimed the unwary. In the cultural memory of these isolated hollows, such entities were not mere animals, but remnants of a wilder time, guardians or curses that demanded respect or exacted payment. Samuel and Susanna never fully recovered. The cabin grew silent, the laughter gone. Samuel took to carrying a heavy iron charm etched with protective runes, a blend of German hex signs and Scotch-Irish wards against the unseen. He rarely ventured into the deeper woods again, his axe now resting by the door like a sentinel. Susanna aged years and months, her eyes forever scanning the tree line at twilight. The family eventually moved closer to Pavia, seeking the comfort of more neighbors, but the mountains followed them in dreams. Locals began a quiet tradition. At dusk, lanterns were lit earlier, children called inside sooner, and stories were told around hearths to warn the young. "Mind the mist," mothers would say. And never follow the footprints that lead to hollow trees. Decades passed, yet the legend endured. By the late 19th century, as logging boomed and railroads pushed into the Alleghenies, old-timers still spoke of the Hollow Walker walking those woods at dusk. Lumberjacks reported tools missing, only to find them gnawed and splintered near the same ancient hemlock. Hikers in the 20th century, long after the Cox tragedy faded from newspapers, described an oppressive feeling near Spruce Hollow, as if something large and patient watched from the shadows. Modern accounts, though rarer, echo the same details: a low growl at twilight, tiny footprints appearing mysteriously after rain, and that unmistakable sound of jaws working on bone. The creature, it seemed, still claimed the ridges, its hunger undiminished by time or progress. Today, the Allegheny Mountains remain a place of breathtaking beauty and hidden peril. The old-growth forests have thinned in places, but the mist still rises in the hollows, and at dusk, the woods take on that same primordial hush. Visitors to the region near Pavia or the broader Bedford County wilds sometimes feel it. An inexplicable chill, a sense that they are not alone. Rangers and locals advise caution on the trails after sunset, not just for bears or slippery rocks, but for something older. The story of the two brothers serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of frontier life, the unbreakable bond of family, and the respect the wild demands. Samuel and Susanna's grief became part of the land's memory, woven into its fog and stone. So the next time you find yourself near mist-shrouded ridges, listen closely at dusk. If you hear the faint crunch of bone or see small footprints leading toward a hollow tree, turn back. Because what the search party found gnawing on those tiny bones in 1856 still walks those woods, patient, eternal, and always hungry. Thank you for journeying with me through this haunting chapter of American mountain history. If the story touched you, moved you, or chilled you to the bone, let me know in the comments. And remember to tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there right now? Share your thoughts on the Hollow Walker. Do you think such things still linger in remote places, or are they echoes of our deepest fears? Drop a like if you want more forgotten tales from the Alleghenies and beyond, and subscribe so you never miss a walk into the mist. Until next time, stay safe out there, especially at dusk.